I thought I had the perfect life, chief of surgery, gorgeous wife, Boston penthouse. Until that night, she stumbled home at 4 a.m. reeking of another man's cologne, lipstick smeared across her face. When I switched on the lights, her eyes told me everything before she spoke a word. What she didn't know was that I'd already seen her texts. The question wasn't if she was cheating, but whether our 15-year marriage was worth saving. My name is Robert Warren. I'm 43 years old and the chief of surgery at Memorial General Hospital in Boston. 15 years of marriage to Jennifer, 14 years building my career at the hospital, and it all started unraveling because I forgot one simple truth. A relationship neglected eventually dies, just like any patient left untreated. The promotion to chief came with everything I'd worked for: respect, influence, the ability to implement real changes in patient care. But it also came with 70-hour work weeks, midnight emergency calls, and a gradual disconnection from the woman who had stood by me through med school, residency, and those early attending years when I was just trying to make a name for myself. That Tuesday in October marked 16 months since my promotion. I was in my office reviewing department budgets when my phone buzzed with a calendar alert. Jen's exhibition opening, 7 p.m. I had completely forgotten. Again, I called her immediately, already knowing the disappointment I would hear. "Robert," she answered, her voice flat. "Let me guess, you can't make it." "I'm sorry, Jen. We have a board meeting that got moved up, and there's this situation with the cardiothoracic department funding." "Save it," she cut me off. "It's fine. It's just the biggest exhibition I've handled for the firm this year. Nothing important." Jennifer was a senior partner at Caldwell & Myers, one of Boston's top law firms. She had worked just as hard as I had to get where she was, specializing in art and intellectual property law. This exhibition had been all she talked about for weeks, while I was actually home to hear it. "I'll try to make the end," I offered, knowing even as I said it that it was probably a lie. "Don't bother. Mark can handle it." Mark Stevens, the new associate who had joined the firm 6 months ago. Jennifer mentioned him frequently, always professionally, but something in the way she said his name made the hair on my neck stand up. "Mark? Why would Mark be handling your client?" "Because someone needs to be there to support me," she said, her voice sharpening. "Someone who shows up." The call ended without the usual, "love you," or "even see you tonight." Just silence, then the disconnection tone. I sat back in my chair, the budget spreadsheets suddenly insignificant. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I left work early. I walked into our condo at 6:15 p.m., surprising Jennifer as she was getting ready. The look on her face wasn't joy. It was shock, followed quickly by suspicion. "What happened? Is everything okay?" she asked, securing an earring. "I want to be here. For you," I said simply, already changing into a suit. She studied me for a moment, as if trying to determine if I was serious. I stepped forward and kissed her cheek, breathing in her perfume. Something new, something I hadn't noticed before. "Let's go show off that exhibition," I said, offering my arm. For the first time in months, she smiled at me without reservation. I didn't know it then, but we were already standing on the edge of a cliff. The art exhibition was packed with Boston's elite, politicians, old money families, and fellow physicians who seemed surprised to see me out of scrubs. Jennifer worked the room like she was born to it, her black cocktail dress and confident smile drawing everyone's attention. I stood by the bar, watching her shine. "Quite the woman you've got there, Warren," said Dr. Ellis, one of the hospital board members. "Don't see how you could stay away from home with her waiting there." The comment stung more than he knew. I was about to respond when I saw him. Mark Stevens. Young, maybe early 30s, with the kind of polished good looks that come from expensive haircuts and tailored suits. He moved through the crowd with easy confidence, stopping to speak with Jennifer. The way she leaned toward him, laughing at something he said, sent a jolt through me. "Who's that?" I asked, nodding toward them. "New hotshot at Caldwell & Myers," Ellis replied. "Poached from some New York firm. Making waves, from what I hear." Making waves indeed. Jennifer touched Mark's arm as she introduced him to a client. Nothing inappropriate, but something in the gesture seemed too familiar. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, I tried to sound casual. "So this Mark guy seems friendly." Jennifer glanced at me in the mirror as she removed her earrings. "He's brilliant. Brought in 3 major clients already." "What?" "Just noticed you two seemed close," I said, loosening my tie. She turned to face me. He's a colleague, Robert. One who actually shows up when he says he will. The barb landed perfectly. I had deserved that. The next few weeks, I made an effort. I left the hospital by 7 when possible, scheduled date nights, even surprised her with tickets to a show she'd mentioned. But doubts had taken root. I noticed the changes. New clothes, a different hairstyle, more care with her appearance than I'd seen in years. She'd always been beautiful, but this was something else. She'd come home later from work, often smelling of wine, mentioning dinners with clients that hadn't been on her calendar before. Then came the credit card statement with a charge from the Liberty Hotel bar on a Tuesday, when she'd said she was working late at the office. When I asked about it casually, she mentioned a quick drink with colleagues. Anyone I know? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Just people from work. Mark, Catherine, a few others. She said it dismissively while scrolling through her phone. I shouldn't have done it. It went against everything I believed about trust and privacy. But that night, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. There were dozens of text messages from Mark, most professional, but some edging into personal territory. Comments about her looking nice in meetings, inside jokes I wasn't part of, plans for drinks after work. Nothing explicitly damning, but enough to make my stomach tighten. I replaced the phone exactly as I'd found it, feeling both ashamed of my suspicion and justified in my concern. The seed had been planted. I needed to know if I was losing my wife, and if so, what I was going to do about it. The breaking point came unexpectedly on a Friday in late November. Heather, my assistant, placed an embossed invitation on my desk. Caldwell and Myers Holiday Gala. I read aloud. December 16th at the Fairmont. Mrs. Warren dropped it off personally, Heather said. She mentioned it's important you attend. I checked my calendar. I was scheduled to host the hospital's annual fundraiser that same night, an event I couldn't possibly miss. When I called Jennifer, she already knew what I was going to say. Save it, Robert. I've heard it all before. Her voice was ice. This gala happens once a year. My name is on the invitation as a hosting partner. Jen, I can't just not show up at our hospital fundraiser. I'm the chief of surgery. And I'm your wife, she snapped. Or have you forgotten that part? That's not fair, I said, feeling my temper rise. I've been making an effort. For what, 3 weeks? After years of neglect? Do you want a medal? She paused, then added quietly. Mark says his wife never misses his events. My blood went cold. Mark says, since when do you and Mark discuss our marriage? We don't, she said too quickly. It just came up. Like it just came up when you had drinks with him at the Liberty, when you told me you were working late. The silence that followed told me everything. You checked up on me? Her voice was dangerously calm. I saw the credit card statement, Jennifer. Were you even going to tell me about your little rendezvous? It was drinks with a colleague. Not a rendezvous, she fired back. But thanks for showing me exactly how much you trust me. Trust needs to be earned, I said, immediately regretting the words. 15 years, Robert. 15 years I've stood by you while you built your career. I never once questioned your late nights or weekend calls. And this is what I get. She hung up. I stared at the phone, then made a decision. I rescheduled the hospital fundraiser. It cost me political capital with the board, but some things were more important. I wouldn't lose my marriage without a fight. That night, I left a message on her voicemail. I moved the fundraiser. I'll be at your gala. Because despite what you think, you matter more. She didn't call back, and when I got home, her side of the closet was half empty. A note on the kitchen counter read, staying at Emma's for a few days. Need space to think. Emma, her recently divorced friend who'd always looked at me like I was the enemy. Perfect. I poured a scotch and pulled out my laptop. It was time to be strategic. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting against whatever narrative Mark Stevens was spinning for my wife. The night of the Caldwell and Myers Gala arrived with a December chill. Jennifer had barely spoken to me in the 2 weeks since our fight, despite my repeated attempts to reach out. She'd returned home, but slept in the guest room. I arrived at the Fairmont early, determined to make this night count. I greeted her colleagues, made small talk with managing partners, and waited for my wife. Hours passed. Jennifer was nowhere to be found. I checked my watch. 10:30 p.m. The gala was in full swing, but the guest of honor hadn't appeared. I called her cell, straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. Mark was also conspicuously absent. At 11:15 p.m., I left the gala and drove home, a sense of dread building in my chest. Our condo was dark. I let myself in and flipped on the kitchen light. Her keys weren't in the bowl by the door. Instead of retreating to our bedroom, I settled into an armchair in the dark living room. If she came home, I wanted to know where she'd been. No more lies. No more evasions. The clock ticked past midnight. Then 1 a.m. Then 2. My phone remained silent. At 3:42 a.m., I heard keys fumbling at the lock. I remained still, hidden in shadow. Jennifer stumbled in, kicking off her heels in the entryway. Her cocktail dress was wrinkled, her carefully styled hair now disheveled. She smelled of wine and unfamiliar cologne as she passed by me, completely unaware of my presence. I reached over and switched on the lamp. She gasped, nearly dropping her clutch. "Robert, what are you doing sitting in the dark? Where were you, Jennifer?" My voice was steady, controlled. "Out. With friends." She tried to push past me, toward the bedroom. "You missed your own firm's gala. The one you insisted I attend." She paused, color draining from her face. There was a change of plans. "With Mark?" I asked, standing now. Her eyes widened. "How did you?" "I'm not blind, Jen. Is it him? Are you having an affair?" She stared at me, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. "I went to his place," she admitted finally. "We had dinner, talked. And nothing." She looked away. I couldn't go through with it. I left. At almost 4 a.m., I moved closer, my heart pounding. "Do you expect me to believe that?" "I drove around," she said, voice breaking. "I sat in the car for hours, trying to figure out what I want." I studied her face, searching for truth. "And what do you want, Jennifer?" "I don't know anymore." A tear slid down her cheek. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't betray what we have, even if it's broken. I wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at me. "We need to talk. Really talk. No more hiding." She nodded slowly, and for the first time in months, I saw a glimmer of the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, honest, still fighting for us in her own way. The sun would be rising soon. We had a long road ahead, but for now, we'd taken the first step back toward each other. Morning arrived with harsh clarity. Jennifer and I sat at our kitchen table, 2 steaming mugs of coffee between us like a neutral zone in contested territory. "I want to see your phone," I said calmly. "If you have nothing to hide, you'll hand it over." She looked ready to argue, but instead reached into her purse and placed her iPhone on the table. "Go ahead." I scrolled through her messages with Mark. There were dozens from the past few months, growing increasingly personal. Flirtatious comments about how she looked in meetings. Late-night texts about missing her voice. Plans for dinners that never appeared on her calendar. The latest messages confirmed her story. From last night. "Mark, where did you go? Come back up." "Mark, Jennifer, please answer. Did I say something wrong?" "Mark, at least let me know you're safe." The final message, sent at 2:17 a.m. I thought we had something real. Guess I was wrong. I placed the phone down, emotions warring inside me. Relief that she'd apparently left before anything happened. Anger that it had gotten this far. "Why?" I asked simply. Jennifer's composure cracked. "He made me feel valued. Seen. When was the last time you looked at me? Really looked at me, instead of checking your schedule or reading medical journals?" The accusation stung because there was truth in it. "That doesn't justify betrayal," I said firmly. "I didn't sleep with him," she insisted. "But you wanted to." It wasn't a question. She didn't deny it. I wanted to feel something again. "Do you have any idea how lonely I've been? You're physically here maybe 1 night out of 3, and even then, you're mentally at the hospital." I took a deep breath. I've made mistakes. But this, I gestured to the phone, this isn't the answer. "I know," she whispered. "When I was in his apartment, about to cross that line, I couldn't do it. I saw our wedding photo on my phone screen and just left. But I was too ashamed to come home right away." We sat in silence, the weight of confessions and misconnections hanging between us. "What happens now?" she finally asked. "You cut all contact with Mark," I said without hesitation. "Non-negotiable. And the firm? We work together. Then you find another firm." I leaned forward. "If you're serious about saving our marriage, that's what it takes." Her eyes flashed. "Why am I the only one making sacrifices? What about you and your 60-hour weeks?" It was a fair question. "I'll reduce my administrative duties. Delegate more. Be home by 7 most nights." I reached for her hand. "I want us to work, Jennifer. but we both need to rebuild trust. She nodded slowly. I'll talk to the managing partners tomorrow about transferring Mark's cases to someone else. It was a start, but the road ahead will be difficult. The trust we'd built over 15 years had been damaged, not just by her actions, but by the neglect that preceded them. We should talk to someone, I suggested. A professional. Jennifer agreed, and for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope that we might find our way back to each other. 2 days later, I received a text that made my blood run cold. Need to see you. Liberty Hotel Bar. 7 p.m. Mark. I showed it to Jennifer. Did you know about this? She paled. No. I told him yesterday I couldn't work with him anymore. I'm going, I decided. Robert, don't. I need to look this man in the eye. Make some things clear. Jennifer bit her lip. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. This involves me too, she insisted. If we're rebuilding trust, we do it together. She had a point. We arrived at the Liberty Hotel together at 7:05 p.m. Mark sat at the bar, surprise flickering across his face when he saw us both. This wasn't the meeting I requested, he said coolly. My wife and I are a package deal, I replied, sitting beside him while Jennifer took the seat on my other side. What did you want to discuss? Mark glanced at Jennifer, then back to me. I think you know. Enlighten me, I said, maintaining eye contact. Jennifer and I have a connection. Something real. Something you've neglected. I felt her stiffen beside me, but kept my focus on Mark. Let me be clear. Jennifer is my wife. We've had our problems, yes, but we're working through them. Shouldn't that be your choice? Mark challenged. It is, Jennifer spoke up. And I've made it. I choose my marriage, Mark. His expression hardened. You didn't feel that way the other night. The other night was a mistake, she said firmly. One I stopped before it went too far. You realize you'll have to leave the firm now, he said, a threat in his voice. I bristled, ready to respond, but Jennifer beat me to it. Actually, I spoke with Catherine and Harold this morning. They value my client relationships too much to lose me. You'll be transferring to the New York office. Mark's face went slack with shock. They can't do that. They can and did. I've been there 10 years. You've been there 6 months. Jennifer's voice was steady. I suggest you accept the transfer gracefully. He looked from Jennifer to me, then down his whiskey and stood. You've made a mistake, he said to her. He'll never change. Maybe not, she replied, but neither will you. After he left, Jennifer turned to me. I didn't tell you about the transfer. I wanted to handle it myself. I nodded, impressed by her resolve and feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride in my wife's strength. You were magnificent, I told her honestly. She gave a small smile. I've spent years negotiating with difficult men in boardrooms. Did you think I couldn't handle one arrogant associate? For the first time in months, we both laughed. Something had shifted. The road to recovery would be long, but we'd face the threat together and emerge stronger. The news about Mark's transfer spread through Boston's legal circles like wildfire. Within days, it seemed everyone had chosen sides in a battle they knew nothing about. I was reviewing surgical schedules when my office door opened. Dr. Ellis strode in without knocking. Warren, what the hell is going on with your wife? Word as she forced out that promising young attorney from Caldwell and Myers. I set down my pen. My wife's professional decisions aren't up for discussion, Ellis. It is when she's representing half the hospital board in personal matters. He leaned forward. There are rumors, which you'd be wise not to repeat. I cut him off, standing to my full height. Jennifer made a business decision the partners supported. End of story. Ellis studied me. Heard Mark was getting a bit too friendly. Good for you, putting a stop to it. Wish I'd done the same with my ex. After he left, I received a text from Jennifer. Dinner tonight? Emma's throwing a support party for me, but I'd rather be with you. Emma, who'd been feeding my wife's discontent for months. Emma, who'd probably encourage her friendship with Mark. I replied, I'll cook. 7 p.m. Just us. That evening, after a simple dinner of steaks and salad, Jennifer brought up the subject I'd been avoiding. Emma's furious with me. Says I'm making a mistake. By choosing your marriage. I asked carefully. By caving to patriarchal pressure, were her exact words. Jennifer smiled wryly. She thinks I should have let you stew longer. And what do you think? She considered this. I think Emma's been divorced twice for a reason. She's never fought for anything that mattered. I reached for her hand. And we matter? We do. Her eyes met mine. The counselor called. She can see us Thursday at 5. I nodded, already rearranging mental schedules. I'll be there. I started looking at other firms, she added. Catherine offered to connect me with Brennan and Lockhart, the rival firm across town. A prestigious offer, but a longer commute. If that's what you want, I said, meaning it. I want us to work. If that means a fresh start professionally, I'm all in. Later that night, as we lay in our bed together for the first time in weeks, Jennifer whispered, Robert, I've missed you. I pulled her closer. I'm right here, not going anywhere. We didn't make love that night, but we slept in each other's arms, a small victory in our battle to reclaim what we'd nearly lost. The next morning, I made a decision. I walked into the hospital administration offices and requested a reduction in my administrative duties. I need 1 full weekend off each month, I told the board chairman, and no more than 3 late nights weekly. He looked surprised. This is unexpected, Warren. The chief of surgery position requires. It requires balance. I interrupted. Something I've neglected. I'm an excellent surgeon, but I need to be an excellent husband too. He studied me, then nodded. We can adjust. You're too valuable to lose. I walked out feeling lighter than I had in years. This was what fighting for my marriage looked like. Not confronting Mark, but confronting myself. 3 weeks into counseling, Jennifer and I were working through exercises in communication and rebuilding trust. The process was painful, exposing years of accumulated resentments and missed connections, but necessary. On a crisp Saturday morning, we decided to try something the counselor suggested, revisiting places that held positive memories. We bundled up and walked through Boston Common, where we'd had our 3rd date 16 years earlier. Remember that awful hot chocolate vendor? Jennifer laughed, linking her arm through mine. And how you spilled it all over my new coat, but I was too smitten to care. I smiled at the memory. As we rounded a bend in the path, I tensed. Walking toward us was Harold Caldwell himself, senior partner at Jennifer's firm, with his wife. Jennifer, Robert. He greeted us warmly. Lovely to see you both. We exchanged pleasantries, the awkwardness palpable. How's Mark settling in at the New York office? Harold asked directly. I wouldn't know. Jennifer replied evenly. Harold nodded. A shame how things ended. He had potential. His gaze shifted to me, though I understand why changes were necessary. I stiffened, preparing for confrontation. Robert, Harold continued, surprising me. Catherine mentioned you reduced your hospital commitments. That's commendable. When my first marriage failed, it was because I couldn't make the same choice. His wife squeezed his hand. Second time's the charm, she said with a smile. After they walked away, Jennifer looked at me. Did that just happen? Did Harold Caldwell basically give us his blessing? Sounded like it, I replied, equally surprised. Maybe we're not the first couple to face these challenges. That evening, we received an unexpected visitor. Sandra, Jennifer's mother, arrived with a casserole and determination. I've been thinking about you too, she announced, marching into our kitchen. Marriage isn't easy. God knows your father and I had our moments. Jennifer shot me a confused look. Her parents' marriage had always seemed perfect. Mom, what are you talking about? Sandra set down the casserole. Your father had a close call with his secretary back in '89. I found hotel receipts. She straightened. We worked through it. 47 years now. As she bustled around our kitchen, Jennifer whispered to me, Did you know about this? I shook my head, equally shocked. Over dinner, Sandra dispensed wisdom accumulated through decades of marriage. The trick isn't avoiding problems, she told us. It's facing them together. After she left, Jennifer sat beside me on the couch. If my parents could survive that, maybe we really have a chance. I pulled her close. More than a chance. We're already doing the work. For the first time since the night I'd waited in darkness, I felt real hope for our future. We weren't just surviving. We were rebuilding something stronger than before. 3 months after that night, when Jennifer stumbled home at 4 a.m., we found ourselves in a different place entirely. The counseling sessions had evolved from crisis management to building a stronger foundation. We'd established new patterns, date nights every Wednesday, Sunday mornings unplugged from technology, honest check-ins about our feelings and needs. I have something to show you, Jennifer said one evening, leading me to her home office. She opened her laptop and pulled up an email. Brennan and Lockhart made an offer. Senior partner, heading their intellectual property division. I scanned the details, Impressive salary, more flexibility, prestige equal to her current position. Are you going to take it? I asked. I wanted to discuss it with you first. It's across town, so my commute will be longer. But she hesitated. It's a fresh start. No history, no reminders. I nodded, understanding the unspoken reference to Mark and the painful memories at her current firm. If this is what you want, I support you completely. She searched my face. You really mean that, don't you? I do. I took her hand. Your happiness matters to me, Jen. Not just your presence in my life, but your fulfillment. 2 weeks later, we celebrated her new position with a weekend getaway to a coastal inn we'd visited on our 5th anniversary. Walking along the beach at sunset, Jennifer stopped suddenly. I've been thinking, she said, watching the waves. Maybe we should get a dog. It seemed random, but I understood the significance. A dog was commitment, shared responsibility, future planning. What kind? I asked. A rescue. Something big that needs lots of walks. It would force us both to maintain better work-life balance. I smiled. I like that idea. That night, we made love for the first time since the crisis. It wasn't desperate or filled with unspoken fears. It was tender, deliberate, a recommitment to each other. Afterward, Jennifer curled against me. I feel like we're dating again, she whispered. Rediscovering each other. I kissed her forehead. Maybe that's exactly what we needed. A week later, we visited a shelter and found him. A 3-year-old golden retriever, mixed named Chance. He leaned against Jennifer's leg, looking up at us with hopeful eyes. He's perfect, I said, and the joy on her face confirmed we'd made the right choice. As we drove home with our new family member in the back seat, Jennifer reached for my hand. Thank you for not giving up on us. Never, I promised. Some things are worth fighting for. 6 months after the night that nearly ended our marriage, Jennifer and I hosted a small dinner party in our renovated condo. The space felt different now. We'd repainted, rearranged furniture, created something that felt like a true home rather than just a place we both slept. Chance patted around, collecting affection from our guests. Tom and his wife Sarah, Harold and Catherine from Jennifer's old firm, my brother Michael and his wife. To new beginnings, Tom raised his glass. And to friends who remind us what matters. After dinner, as Jennifer showed the women our recent kitchen remodel, Harold pulled me aside. She's flourishing at Brennan and Lockhart, he said. We miss her, but it was the right move. Thank you for understanding, I replied. He nodded thoughtfully. Mark's return to Boston, you know. Apparently New York wasn't a good fit. I tensed slightly. I didn't know. Don't worry, Harold reassured me. He's with a different firm entirely. Smaller, less prestigious. He sipped his wine. Actions have consequences. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Jennifer and I sat on our balcony. Chance dozed at our feet while we shared the last of the wine. I saw Emma yesterday, Jennifer mentioned casually, at that cafe near my new office. How was that? I asked, curious but not anxious. Strange. She acted like nothing had happened, invited me to some gallery opening. Jennifer leaned against me. I declined. Some influences just aren't healthy. I kissed the top of her head. I'm proud of you. I've been thinking, she said, watching the city lights. Maybe in a year or so, we could consider a bigger step, a baby. I asked softly. She nodded. Is that something you'd want? I thought about how far we'd come. The broken trust, the painful revelations, the deliberate rebuilding of our life together. With you? Absolutely. The next morning, as we walked Chance through the park, our hands intertwined, I reflected on our journey. The crisis that nearly destroyed us had ultimately forced us to confront the weaknesses in our marriage and build something stronger. Jennifer squeezed my hand, as if reading my thoughts. We're going to be okay, aren't we? I looked at her, really looked at her, taking in the smile lines around her eyes, the way the morning sun highlighted the silver strands in her hair that hadn't been there when we met. Still the most beautiful woman I'd ever known. More than okay, I promised. We're going to be extraordinary. She leaned up to kiss me, there in the middle of the path with dog walkers and joggers passing by. Neither of us cared who saw. We had fought for this moment, for each other, and won the only battle that truly mattered.